thyself is to love thyself, is to examine, observe, and respect thyself. It's an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. It's a preoccupation with reflection and revelation that can only be achieved through discipline and determination.
Hello and welcome to the Encouraging Word Show. I'm your host, Jamila Freelain. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the show before, let me tell you, the Encouraging Word Show is all about college and career preparation. Whether you're in middle school, high school, or you're looking at going back to school, whatever your situation, this is the show for you. We're always providing you with tips and resources. Now, if you're not familiar with the show is actually based on or is an extension of the book that I wrote called Free Money for College, which is provided and filled with tips and resources and programs to help you not only go to college, but to graduate from college successfully and learn how to reduce your college costs. Now, today with me, I have two very exciting people. Some people who are with a program called the Opportunity Scholarship Program. And I want to thank you guys for coming today.
You're welcome.
Okay. So with me today, I have Dr. Charles Mitchell and Miss Brittany Riggins.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you, definitely. Now, let me ask you guys, let me just jump right in. Tell me a little bit about the Opportunity Scholarship, and is that through a certain school, or what? Tell me about that program and how it got started.
So the Opportunity Scholars started based upon an economic mobility study done here in Charlotte. Charlotte ranked at the bottom of that study.
Really?
Yeah, based upon where you were born, where you live, pretty much you were staying in that same position. So some donors came together with the help of Central Piedmont Community College and focused on 5 schools: Garinger, Vance, West Charlotte, West Meck, and Harding.
Okay, so those are high schools in the Charlotte area.
Yes.
Those are, yes.
Okay.
That they concentrate on, and it offers them a full scholarship for 2 years as they pursue a career technical education at Central Piedmont.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, Brittany, let me ask you, he mentioned technical careers. What are some of the technical careers that someone could pursue if they were a recipient of the Opportunity Scholarship?
Well, we have students in a variety of different technical careers. They can do computer technology, they can do medical technology. And this year, being our first year, a lot of the students weren't just technology. We had nursing students, we had dental hygienists, so they had a lot of different majors they were interested in.
Oh, that's extremely exciting. Okay, great. So when it comes down to it, it could be a wide array. It wasn't maybe like 2 or 3 different majors.
Right. Well, the goal is technical, but hopefully next year we can gear more towards those technical degrees. Gotcha.
And how many students did you have then this year? You mentioned this year was the first year then?
Yes.
Okay, so how many students were inducted or were recipients of that scholarship? Because that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, 43.
43?
Yes.
Wow, so nearly 50 students. Wow, that's pretty exciting. Now, do you guys have like a ceremony or something to honor those recipients? Or?
So for this year, we did a reception August 14th where students were able to come out, their family was able to come out, as well as members of our staff at Central Piedmont to just recognize the students. The students also received a laptop and a backpack, as well as we covered all tuition fees and the cost of books for those students as well. Okay. And we also will just continue to have 43 students every year for the next 4 years at least. We'll have.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so every year it'll be an anticipated 42, 43.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty exciting. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, now tell me, as far as the Opportunity Scholarship, I know you mentioned students get a full ride. That's tuition fees, so all cost of attendance. What is that value? What is that, if you had to put a numerical value on that? Because you also mentioned there's a laptop and a pretty nice book bag involved as well.
So it's roughly about $2,500 per semester.
Okay.
So you're looking at over 2 years, students, that's about $10,000, maybe closer to $15,000 probably once we look at all the packages that we include as far as the laptop, the backpack, and also the services that we provide.
You're kidding me. Wow. Okay. And what are some of the criteria? Does a person have to have a 4.0 or You know, what is the criteria required?
Well, the recipients have to have at least a 2.6 unweighted GPA. Make
Okay.
sure it's unweighted.
And can you explain unweighted though? Because sometimes I run into that with students and parents. What does unweighted and weighted mean?
So unweighted is for those students. Some students take the AP courses,
Right.
And it's pretty much. And students know they see two different GPAs
Right.
when they come, so they'll be aware that they have a weighted and
Mhm.
unweighted GPA. And it basically evens the playing field for those students who did not take those AP courses.
Gotcha. So you mentioned 2.6
Yes.
GPA, unweighted. And what else? What are
They
the
also
other
have
criteria?
to attend one of CMS's Title I schools. Dr. Charles mentioned one of those 5 schools.
Okay.
Yes, and they also have to have a recommendation from an administrator, teacher, or counselor.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well that's what's up. That's definitely really cool. So the day, the word for the day, actually I have 2 words of the day. Because you guys are here, I wanted to use one word of the day, scholarship for you guys in your segment. So tell me what scholarship, what that word just in general means to you, Brittany.
Opportunity.
It means opportunity. Okay.
Free money.
Okay. And we like
No
that,
student
right?
loans.
Okay. Okay. And why is that important, do you think?
Especially in today's economy. I have student loans. I was an out-of-state student that went to North Carolina A&T State University.
Okay.
When I went to school, I applied to scholarships, but I didn't realize how much debt I would accrue going to college and applying for loans. And so it's a great opportunity for students to not be in debt and to be able to get jobs after they graduate and enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Absolutely true. I would definitely agree with that. As far as scholarships for yourself, that word, what does it mean to you, Dr. Mitchell?
It's just the education that allows you to pursue whatever career goals that you may have. And it's either a 2-year or 4-year degree, or it might be an extended period. So a scholarship just means whatever it takes for you to accomplish those goals. So that's it for me.
Okay. And I would have to say that I agree with both of you guys. I think scholarships are invaluable. That's actually one of the things that I speak about, one of many things that I speak about in the book. But that was kind of the reasoning behind it, Brittany, when I really kind of began realizing how much of an uptick there was continually over the past 20 years when it comes to college tuition and fees overall. And just recognizing that a lot of times people didn't recognize, maybe based upon the major they were choosing or just not looking at the affordability of the school, they were putting themselves in situations where the college debt ended up being more of a hindrance than they ever realized. And I always say college is supposed to be a set up, or, you know, and that's in that regard, not a setback, especially not a financial setback. Otherwise it defeats the whole purpose of going. So that's what scholarship means to me, is just freedom and an opportunity to really be able to go to school for free, or at least reduce your costs significantly. So that's invaluable. Let me know a little bit about you all's background and how you guys came into the roles that you currently have. You mentioned you're an out-of-state.
Yes.
You were an out-of-state student.
Yes.
So where were you from?
I like to
originally?
say that I'm from Atlanta, but I'm really from Stone Mountain, Georgia. So,
Okay.
you know, kind of the same thing.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
Yes.
All right.
I attended North Carolina A&T twice.
Right.
I moved to Charlotte, and I started teaching with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. After I got my master's, I was interested in higher education and found myself at Central Piedmont Community College.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now you said twice, so that was for undergrad and grad?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for
2-time
clarifying. Okay, cool. And your major then was education?
Yes, history education for undergrad, and I did adult education for my master's.
Excellent. Okay, and how about you?
So I'm going to plug my undergraduate. So I'm a chemistry degree at Tuskegee University.
Okay.
And then my terminal, my doctorate is at Alabama State.
Okay, so you're from Alabama originally?
From Alabama,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
And prior to coming to Charlotte, I worked in Baltimore City Public Schools, and I led teacher and principal recruitment.
Okay.
And like I said, I knew I wanted to go back into higher education, and looked at 4 years, but you know, a 2-year college gives you this similar opportunities, and also allows me an opportunity to work directly with students. My background is I was a former teacher as well, so I'm seeing some of the same students that I was teaching. So, you know, it helps me in that sense to try to help those students, because you pointed out something that, debt is some of the bigger things that you leave with.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some students go to school and never get the degree, but you keep that debt.
Absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
just trying to teach those students that a community college affords you a cheaper way to get your feet wet, to make sure higher education is for you.
Absolutely.
And once you are successful there, you're more likely to be successful if you transfer to a four-year university.
Absolutely, and that's true. The completion rate of someone who's completed their associate's degree first and then transfers on to a four-year program is typically more successful, and I agree with you so wholeheartedly, and that's actually been documented as well. But it looks like we have just a few minutes left, and before we wrap up all together, what I wanted to do is to find out if you guys have any closing thoughts or any insight that you want to provide about the Opportunity Scholarship in more detail.
Well, it's a great opportunity, not financially, but educationally, for students to get the academic coaching and the support services that the school has to offer to help them not only find a job, but gain communication and leadership skills.
Okay.
For me, although we are putting priority on those 5 high schools, we have opened the pool up to all students in CMS.
Outstanding.
And like I said, the biggest thing at Central Piedmont, we want to set you up for success. So some of the programming we do a real talk session where we talk about topics that are germane to those students in college as well as their social life. And also we just try to make them acclimated to the school system as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And that's the one thing that we want to make sure everybody knows, that Brittany and I are a part of the program that supports these students in whatever situation we have to support them.
Okay, and one quick last question. I know I said the last one was the last question, but one other thing that occurred to me was, are there wraparound services for the students? For example, I know that once a student gets in to college, a lot of times they may encounter different things along the way that they just didn't anticipate or just didn't foresee. So what are some things that you guys do to help maintain retention among those groups of students?
Well, we definitely have those weekly meetings where we see students and we can touch students.
Is that one-on-one or
yes,
is that?
It's
Okay.
one-on-one, it's group meetings.
Wow, that's
we
tremendous.
use GroupMe, which is a great application. They can talk to us 24/7, not always 24/7. And we just form personal relationships with them when we get to know them outside of the.
Excellent. That's engagement makes the difference for sure.
And I'll keep it real as well. We do home visits.
Okay. Oh wow.
Wait outside your classroom. We haven't seen you, so
All right.
we are doing things to try to make sure they get a personal touch.
So there's some accountability there.
Yes,
definitely.
yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, again, I want to thank you guys for being on the show today. I know somebody's going to be able to take advantage of the scholarship opportunity that we talked about today. Again, thank you for coming,
Thank you.
and I appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay tuned, though, because I have another exciting guest just up in a minute. Welcome back to the Encouraging Word Show. I'm Jamila, Freelain, your host, and here with me today I have photographer Alvin Jacobs. Now, if you have not seen this show before, let me tell you, you're missing a few things. You're missing some real golden nuggets. So I want you to go back to YouTube, check out some of those episodes, and just kind of get some insight as to what we have to offer. It's a show that's on college and career preparation, so I try to provide you with financial literacy tips, college prep tips, career resources, and then insight on career exploration from some of the top people in the game. So today, as I mentioned, I have a wonderful, outstanding photographer with me today who's also a low-key college lecturer. Now, some of his clients and some of his work includes working with the Carolina Panthers, the football team, if you're not familiar with the team or if you're not into football. Jay-Z, if you're into hip-hop. Also, he's covered different events around the country, the Charlottesville riot that took place in Virginia. Also the Charlotte riots that took place here, right? Just a couple of years ago, so not too long ago. He's done some things with Fashion Week and a multitude of different things. But enough about me. Let's jump right in and talk a little bit with Alvin C. Jacobs, my friend and wonderful photographer that he is. How are you doing tonight?
I am amazing. I'm doing great.
Great. So tell me a little bit about how you got started with photography, because I'm not familiar with whether or not that's something that you always done. Is it something that was kind of a newfound interest, or how did you get started in photography?
I always wanted to be an artist. I just didn't know how.
Gotcha.
When the opportunity presented itself in high school, it wasn't cool.
Okay.
You could paint, you could dance, but it just really wasn't something that was a lane that I could see myself following. So approximately 7 years ago,
Now let me ask, did they actually have photography at your high school?
They did.
They did, okay, because a lot of schools have kind of phased
You're
out.
hating low-key.
Yeah.
Low-key. You went to Boylan.
No.
You went to Boylan.
But I didn't graduate from Boylan. Graduated from East because I didn't like Boylan. And I actually mentioned that in the book, so it's kind of funny. But no, actually I wasn't hating. The reason I mentioned that is because a lot of schools have taken arts out of the schools.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to what I try to express, I think it's important to try to explore several different areas and career paths early. So like you found out 7 years ago, if you had, let's say, even cultivated that even more, look at what you've done already.
Absolutely.
So, the sky's the limit. And the earlier you learn, even better. So I'm sorry, but go ahead.
But I wanted something to bring to the table. It's been my experience is that you only have approximately 3 lanes of things that allow you to sit at the table. You're really strong in education, PhD level, things like that. You're a philanthropist of sorts, so money is your front door, or you're a creative.
Okay.
Because
and I would agree.
Absolutely. It's like, so what do you do? Well, I work third shift at UPS. It's like, okay, yeah, right. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you're a creative, well, I paint. Really? Oh, tell me more about, your art. You could be the worst painter ever, but it's still cool. It's a conversation.
Right.
They don't necessarily care where you went to school and things like that, just the fact that you've applied yourself.
Very true.
They don't even care how much money you make. They're not like, how much money you make. It doesn't matter. The fact that you achieved this level of education, now you're at the table, or you're wealthy. And that's a front door anywhere you go.
Right.
But I didn't have the other two.
Okay.
So the creative aspect was my front door, and it's something I could control. It was something I could cultivate. It was something that I could carry with me the rest of my life, and I could pattern it after my own life. It didn't have to be what somebody else told me it was. It could be exactly how I designed it.
Right. So you had that control, and you were able to dictate what the imagery was that people saw. And that's actually going to be our word for the day, image or imagery. So as we kind of move further along, I want to talk about that word and what it means to you. So as you're looking on the screen, you'll see some of the different examples. Now, the first slide that you'll see that comes up is actually a picture of you out on the field. Now, who took that picture of you?
So I don't have I'm not a selfie guy, right?
Okay.
Like when I'm out on the field, I'm just, my head's down and I'm doing what I have to do. So
Right.
that was
You're in the zone.
I'm in the zone. And I don't really tag where I'm at either. So I'm checking into the gig. I never do that. I'm there, I get my money, and I go home. But a colleague of mine took the photo. I didn't know he was taking it, and he tagged me and he said, "Welcome to the game."
Awesome.
And I mean, that was tough. Right? I'm like, oh man, wow! Like, thank you so much. Like, I'm literally in the NFL now. Right? Like, oh my God, like this is so big, and he thought enough of me. I didn't ask him, and it was an amazing photo.
Yeah, it was. It's very dope. Yeah.
So just there's no way that you can kind of pattern your life after what you feel you deserve. You kind of get what you work for.
I agree.
And however long it takes you is how long it takes you. Some people are on someone else's time, and you'll run into a wall of disappointment if you aren't doing what you want to do when you want to do it. If you're an engineer and you want to be a carpenter, well, you're going to be miserable. That's not your life. If you're
and that's not your lane.
No, it's definitely not your lane. And I decided that I wanted to do what I wanted to do at all times. Now, I was eating ramen noodles, and it wasn't always the most luxurious way of life, but I was happy.
Understood. Right.
I was happy. Like, yes, I don't have everything that I need, but I'm happy, and no one controls me. And that meant more to me than almost anything.
Right.
So now when I look at where I'm at now in my life, I'm in full control over the narrative and the work.
Right.
And to me, that meant more than almost anything.
Yeah.
I wish I would have did it a long time ago, but I am where I am right now for a reason. I can handle the success right now. I don't think I could have 10 years ago.
And that's probably why you went through the path or took that particular path indirectly, because nothing is really by accident or happenstance. As I was saying to you the other day, you're like, I'm not supposed to be here. I was, dude, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I need you to quit playing and own it. Absolutely. So that being said, as far as one of the things that I thought was really most interesting that you achieved not too long ago was having an exhibit at the Levine Museum in downtown Charlotte. So tell me how that took place. How did that come about?
So I live right around the corner. Well, not right around the corner, but like within walking
not
distance
too far.
from Levine. And I would just go a couple of times a week. I just loved museums, but that one particularly. And I just had a great working relationship with the people who were there. And just one day during conversation, kind of like we're having right now, we were just talking about photography. I'm like, oh, well, I'm a photographer, and I just had a couple of photos on my phone, and it was like, well, wait a minute, like, where are these from? I said, I don't know, I think Ferguson maybe. They're like, Ferguson, Missouri? Yeah. I said, and here's some from Brooklyn, here's some, like, how many of these do you have? I said, I don't know, a few thousand. Really? So we were always going to do an exhibit in like 2019. Yeah, this was 2016 or 2015. Right. So most exhibits, they're on like a 5-year cycle. You know, it isn't an immediate response. So when the uprising in Charlotte happened, I already had everything ready. We were already in conversations like, look, how fast can you have this together? I'm like, so immediately.
Right.
So
because they were already
ready.
Right.
They were already ready. And so we needed a community response to what was happening in our city. And
just to pause there for a second, as you're saying this on the screen, they're seeing the shot from the Charlotte riots with the police in the bus in the background. Okay, tell me about that shot and then continue on.
I wanted that shot so bad.
Okay.
I saw that they were riding around in the Cats buses, but you know when a bus isn't in service, it says not in service, so you don't wait and you stop for it. So they were literally in front of the bus. With not in service in the background. I'm like, you're just making this way too easy. This is so amazing to me. So I wanted that shot, and I finally got it. It was something that I'll never forget because I'm now willing my shots into existence. There was one that I wanted with the Energy Building, and I needed it lit in Panther blue because that's how you remember Charlotte. You know, even more than the purple and teal. You're like, you know, that blue, that Charlotte. You see the building, and there were police officers standing right in front of the building. I had to kind of set it up a little differently, but you see the building in the back, and there's just a wall of officers with the shields. I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. So I'm willing these shots, and they're coming to fruition. But that was something that I decided that I loved. I didn't know I was going to be able to monetize it. I didn't realize that it was going to end up in art institutions or anything like that. And there was a time where I couldn't even afford to store them properly. So I had the smallest of files, you know, and I'm like, this is the worst quality. But after things got better, I started archiving properly because I'm like, this is a responsibility now. It's not just about, am I going to make $1 million? But if there was no photo, no video, it didn't happen. Right. So now my responsibility is to create and maintain the narrative, right? Because now they're telling us what didn't happen, even though we were there. So I found myself, at the very least for the last 7 years, documenting social injustice all around America professionally. And I was calling myself a photojournalist, but I wasn't because I'd never been on assignment officially. Right. So it wasn't like someone called me on, hey, can you be here and do this? I would just go. I mean, if I had to sleep in my car, it was what it was. Right. You know, I didn't care. I didn't have any press credentials. You know, if I got arrested, it was what it was. There was no money coming to bail me out. But I loved it so much, it became a part of my life.
And I appreciate you sharing that, definitely, because that's really what it comes down to a lot of times. What is it that you would do for free? Whether it's, you know, being a photographer, whether it's, you know, doing certain, solving certain problems, whether it's the world's problems, coming up with a better washing machine, recycling water, building a better mousetrap, whatever it may be. So getting back to the development of that, those photos that you had documented, and that transitioning into an exhibit at the Levine Museum, continue with that.
So with each individual, I call them theaters because that's what they call them in wartime situations. I found that I was being watched. There's been interviews from CNN, HLN, Fox News, just everywhere, like, well, what did you experience? What did you see? I'm like, you know what, now I have to be even more intentional with my imagery. I have to be at the right place at the right time and I have to make it back. So there was no gung-ho, I'm ready to die for the cause.
Right, slow
It
your
was
roll.
different because what was
Right.
more important wasn't the fact that I was there, was the fact that I got those images back, or it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your camera's stolen or the images are damaged, you were there for nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not of interest to me.
Right.
I'm there to document.
And historically, that has happened. In
Oh,
many different
I've
cases.
seen it happen. I've seen
Yeah.
cameras run down the road, cell phones, everything. But I wanted to step up my game, so to speak. It wasn't good enough just to be a protest photographer. It wasn't just good enough because how were you going to monetize that, right? You aren't going to take off from your good job uptown. Hey, excuse me, I have to go to Ferguson again. You know,
Right. How well would that go?
How well would that go over?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the political ramifications of doing this work, it's like, yeah, you know, we no longer need your services.
Right.
So now how do you set yourself up independently to where you can afford to do these things? You're not balling out of control, but you can afford a flight.
Right.
You can afford to rent a car. You can afford a hotel because you cannot sleep in a car in the wintertime, you know, in Standing Rock, you know. It's just not a good situation.
Right.
So I had to step my game up in a way to where I became a professional in a field that wasn't necessarily professionalized outside of the photojournalism lens of things. So I couldn't be out begging for money either because it's like, oh, you again. You know, like, what are you doing with these images? You go, you just have fun, I'm like, okay, I have to do something different. So I just hustled so hard. And my practices had to become professional, even though what I was doing might have not necessarily been viewed
Not
that way because
traditional 9 to 5,
absolutely because
right.
I haven't sold anything, right? All my images were just stored in archive. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to reflect. I'm ready to start writing books. I'm ready to start giving lectures. I'm ready to start benefiting from these years, and not even just benefiting monetarily. I need the people to have a voice.
Right.
So when I'm asked, you know, at the exhibit, what do you want people to take away, you know, from your work? That they have a voice. This is for you.
Right.
There's more of us, of the people, than there is of anybody else. There are more of us than there are senators. There's more of us than there are police officers. There are more of us than there are teachers and everything else. There's more regular, everyday people. So the response of the Levine was the response of the people. It was a community response. And if we're talking about members of law enforcement, things like that, yes, they are members of our community, but they stand kind of separate. You know, a judge stands kind of separate. You know, attorneys and, you know, people like that, well, no, not necessarily attorneys, but law enforcement stands kind of separate from the people because we're being judged by these people.
Okay.
If we were all together, it'd be like, well, man, we're in the same situation. We don't even hang out together if you think about it. So I'm saying all that to say that I needed to do something different if I wanted a career in documentary or documentation style photography. I needed to do something different. Was I going to sell them to major outlets? Was I going to give a lecture circuit? Was I going to write a book?
Right.
Books, period.
Trying to figure out what
absolutely,
platform that they were gonna
absolutely.
be.
So now you're like, okay, in the back of my mind, what sort of education will set me up for this? Because I just can't show a picture and walk off.
Right.
You need the narrative. Well, can you speak? You know, can you put an outfit together? You know what a noun is, a verb.
Can you add to it?
Absolutely.
Right,
Can you
right.
add to it? So now, even though I don't have a PhD, I had to dig deep to be able to form a critical analysis. So now education is kicking in. Even though what I was doing wasn't necessarily made readily available, I had to be able to think independently because I'm thinking on my feet. You don't get interview questions. They don't do that.
Yeah.
That's an integrity issue. They're like, oh, I see that. I'm like, yeah, could you email the questions? They're
yeah,
like,
no.
we're not going to be able to do that. And I'm like, so this is live? Yes. And I'm like, okay, okay. And getting over that part, that professionalism again kicks in. There is
Right.
no substitute for education, but opportunity is what you're going to make for yourself if you're consistent. And that's really what I'm learning more than almost anything. You know, your mom, you know, was really big in education. It was like, look, you know, I understand what you're saying, but you have to go to school. You know, and I mean, my parents too, absolutely. You know, we have to go to school, but where we're from, we learn differently. You know, working in a factory for your whole life is an honorable a way of life. It's
Right.
a path.
And
There's
it's
nothing
still-
wrong with
right,
it. It
right.
still is. So I didn't take the traditional path, but there was something that there was a rapper named Redman, and his government name is Reggie Noble, and it's interesting.
Okay.
He said, "I don't have a college degree," and this is funny. He said, "But I still push a whip with right and left AC." Right? So you got climate control on both sides. I don't have a college degree, but you know, I'm not doing half bad.
Right, right.
I love that analogy, right? Because it's like, oh, so where'd you go to school? Man, School of Hard Knocks. Literally and figuratively.
Yes.
But you don't get the chance to determine my level of success or the level of success or the level of respect you're going to give me based upon your view of my level of education. Right? Because obviously I'm pretty fly. Obviously,
Otherwise you wouldn't be in a position.
Absolutely. And it's like, Google me, you don't have to say those things. So I don't want to be a member of necessarily the talented 10th. I want to be a part of the individuals that raise up an entire generation of individuals who want better for all of us. If your education isn't helping me, stop talking about it. I mean, seriously, stop talking. Well, I have a PhD from, and that's great, and I think that's amazing, brother. All y'all hiring. Seriously, because that's what the children are asking. They want to know what kind of car you have, where do you live, what kind of shoes, things like that. Things that are practical. Yeah. But I need some help. I need some help. When looking at the movie Black Panther, it was interesting because the I don't want to call him the villain, but the anti-hero, without giving a spoiler, it was kind of like, look, you've had all these resources for this long, and there's a lot of us that look just like you, and we would have done completely better in life if you would have shared those resources. And if we turn the lens around and look at us, we've been wealthy for a long time, and there's many of us who will never obtain this individual wealth, right? And I'm not asking that you give it to me, but I need some game.
Right.
We are responsible for giving what we know. Like with your book, you could have kept that to yourself. You could have been like, look, I got what I don't have any educational debt. I don't know what to tell you. You could have, right? But you were like, you know what, wait a minute. I have a responsibility to people. I have a responsibility to give this information back. If I could just help one person. And
absolutely, that was the purpose behind it. Yeah.
You've helped way more than one. If we can follow that blueprint, now we're winning. If I can make another photographer, right? Someone that comes right behind me.
Right.
And
you will.
Oh, I will. I have. I have. And it's beautiful. It means so much to me to see them shining.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, he or she's getting kind of cold. I have to step my game up.
Right.
Good.
The student becomes the teacher.
Man, look, and they've got time. I'm like, I wish I was 16 and 17 and I could do this. I got to, go do what I have to do. But I'm really saying all that to say that we don't have to necessarily do it the way that everyone else wants to do it.
Right.
But if we're going to be a leader, it only makes sense if the fruits, right? You can talk all you want. If you can't show that work, like in math class, how'd you get that answer? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and, you have to show the work or it didn't happen.
Right. Absolutely true.
We have to show that work as leaders. And it doesn't matter what level of success we're in or lack thereof, we owe it to ourselves and our people to start standing up in our communities and start doing more for each other. Because Wakanda can be real.
Right.
It can be real.
Right.
Metaphorically, we can make some things happen for ourselves because we have the resources.
Absolutely true.
And the education and the numbers. There's enough of us.
Very, very true. And it could be that average person, just the brother or the sister that's living in the neighborhood. Doesn't have to be XYZ athlete. Doesn't have to be XYZ entertainer. Charity starts at home. And that home might be, with your homeboy or your homegirl in the neighborhood. Really? So, and that's true. So I appreciate you sharing that. One other thing I want to mention, or two other things really. It looks like from Creative Loafing, which is a local publication here in the Charlotte area, that your exhibit that was at the Levine Museum, No Justice, No Peace, was actually voted as the best exhibit for that year. Can you speak on that particular honor, or?
I mean, of course it was. Why would it not? Why would it not? But no, doing things on that level. That's the responsibility. I look at the people that I've dealt with, the people that I've worked with, the people that I've interacted with over the years, and we can't decide who we want to help, kind of, sort of. Well, I'll help you if you're going to Spelman. If you're going to Spelman, I'll help you. I have money for you. There's absolute contingencies. You might just want to be a carpenter. You might. You might just.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But being the best of the best is something that we are responsible for.
Absolutely.
Once we get out of our own way. And again, I keep bringing back where we're from, because if it wasn't for our parents, you and I would be in a completely different world.
Right, and it was about the standards they set, and then for us to take the ball and run with it, and then set the expectation and the standard much higher. So that's what I feel like we've both been able to accomplish.
It took me a little longer.
Well, that's okay. Okay. Who said there was a time limit on it?
Look, I gave a time limit. I was like, I don't understand why this is taking so long. But I did get it. But I did understand. I absolutely, looking at it in retrospect, I do understand it now. Because if you aren't doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, you're getting exactly what you're supposed to be getting.
Absolutely.
And if you aren't in college right now, you can read. If you aren't in a particular trade school right now, you can study, you can practice, you can do whatever it is you need to do. You can network. Right. You can talk to people. If you need some help, ask those questions. Because at the end of the day, if you aren't asking those questions and you aren't getting the help, no one's going to care about the position that you're in personally. And it's going to be your own fault on the back end. Right. Now, I could have helped you if you would have asked. We have to let egos get on about the way.
Right.
You know,
Indeed.
And if somebody tells you no, oh, well, there's another person.
Right. You're just closer to a yes. And then let me interject, too, because I think you said something that I wanted to reflect on, and it's that scripture, again, that your gift will make room for you. Again, once you found your gift. Part of my mission, I feel like, in doing this show, whether it's a parent or a student that I'm speaking to, is to help people identify what their potential gifts may be. Are we going to cover everything under the sun that could ever be available in terms of a career path? No. But if it sparks an interest or allows somebody to see, hey, I have some of those same qualities. He has some of the same thoughts that I have. I like his mindset. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe somebody is gifted. Like, I was very creative in terms of art, but you know, when it came to high school classes, we didn't have, I don't think we had photography at my high school. That's why I was hating on the fact that y'all had classes, if anything. But
Kaplan.
we definitely.
Auburn had Kaplan.
Okay,
That's
yes. Auburn had a gifted program, and I think I got, maybe I didn't get into the gifted program. I don't know.
I didn't.
I don't remember now, but I ended up at a different school, but I still chose journalism, and I chose journalism because it allowed me to be a storyteller and a writer, and those were things that I excelled at. So the point in saying that is I was able to identify my gift early. It took you a little longer to identify your gift, but then look where it's taken you now that you've identified it. You know?
I think I was going to say, to piggyback off of that, we have to be the best that we can be. Because if someone sees something in you, it's great, but it's better if you see it in yourself early.
Absolutely.
You can only be helped as much as you're willing to receive. And there's going to be a lot of people that that believe that they deserve more. But if they aren't working just as hard, you don't deserve anything.
Right.
And the only person you can be mad at is yourself. When I got up and was like, you know what, I can't live like this another day. Right? Start answering those emails.
You got sick and tired of being
sick and tired. Right? Start sending those texts back on time. You know, show up for class like when you're supposed to. All the things that you're supposed to do that are going to make you a better person, you have to do. Or it's either not going to happen at all, or it's going to take all day. And all that's going to do is frustrate the heck out of you when you could have been on your path to success a lot faster, a lot sooner.
Or the person that's on the receiving end that's going, dude, I thought you was coming through.
What's that word though? It's
Imagery?
Well, absolutely.
Accountable. Being accountable.
I love all these words. No. When you can't cast your pearls among swine, right? If someone is investing in you, and they need that to come back. They may not necessarily say, "Okay, I helped you study. I need $500." No, I want you to get that A.
Right.
Your responsibility is to give this back.
Absolutely.
I don't have time
invested in you.
Absolutely, and that's real. You know, you can't be like, I don't feel like doing that today. Well, see, I invested in you, and you're going to do it.
Right.
And we're going to have a problem. I need you to do well because this is helping me as well. And if we can start looking at that from a community standpoint, start investing in, and not necessarily the people who look the way we want them to look or have the ideologies and things like that. Sometimes people just need help. They might not be the best Christian in the world, right? But they could use a little bit of help. They may have a couple kids. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, whatever the situation is, it's your responsibility to bring that back.
Right.
If they give you that help, you have to do something with it, or they could have gave it to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And you're missing them out on their blessings if it doesn't come back. You help somebody and it breaks bad, like, man, I could have gave that to Joe down the street.
Right. He would have done something.
He could have did something with it. Now I'm not getting what I need. I knew you weren't going to pay me back. It wasn't about that, but I don't even get my blessings because you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
Right.
That's a mess.
Yeah. Definitely, we're gonna be short on time, so I want to wrap up with two quick things, and I want to also say thank you for coming. I'll have to have you back when you're back in town. down, definitely. So for all of the different things that you saw here today, again, you can replay and share this video that will be live. Well, it was live tonight on Facebook Live. But if you want this link if you want to see the link when it's come out and some of those different images that Alvin has shot, that'll be available on Thursday. If you want more information about free money for college and learning about financial literacy and learning about college prep tips, not just to get into college, but to graduate, because again, that's the ultimate goal. Also, understanding how to reduce your costs. Those are all things that are critical and that are important in the purpose behind the book. You can find the book on both Amazon.com as well as ewcollegeprep.net. And with that, I'm going to close out with a quick plump poem. And it's called To Know Thyself. To know thyself is to love thyself. It's to examine, evaluate, and observe thyself. It's to check thyself. It's to respect thyself. Is to be mindful of the inner voice within thyself. Is an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. Is a preoccupation. It's a self-discovery revelation. And it can only be achieved through discipline and determination. Discover who you are. That's my encouraging words for today. And I'm your host, Jamila Freelain. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. Well, y'all.